You start.
Oh, apparently he's trying to sneak on here.
Hey!
Welcome to another episode of Backwoods Brothers.
I just had to show up tonight.
Yeah, we finally got Tony back on.
What's my name?
Yep. Hey,
Say my name.
I'm Joel,
Say my name.
and this is
Tony.
Hey, Dorinda, Spencer, Sarah.
Yes.
Spencer and Sarah, people. Lots of names on there. Hey, good to see you guys tonight. We are back for another great episode, and tonight we are going to teach common sense.
Yes, we're going to try to teach common sense, but let me tell you where I was for the last 3 weeks. This awesome guy and the Backwoods Brothers team released me to go do a sing-off in Portland.
Okay.
And I made it to the finals. It was a month-long thing, and the winnings were about $2,000 and a record deal. Whatever.
He lost to a 6-year-old.
I lost to a 6-year-old. Are you smarter than a 6-year-old? Well, I can sing better than a 6-year-old. So I got there to the end, into the finals, and right at the end, I could say, womp, 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 womp. Didn't win, but if you don't exceed or succeed, you try again. So I'm going to probably try again, but we made it to the end. I'm going to keep going, follow your dream, whatever. So there you go. I'm not going to sing because Sis would go, first of all, our mics can't handle your loud voice, even talking.
Yep, they'd probably bust.
And two, I tend to oversing songs.
I
know it's a mystery to our audience, but
I think we had a video about that once.
I think there was. But because it was gone, I figured that I would bring something back to my bestie. You know, they have these chocolate chip cupcakes or whatever these cupcakes are.
It's not my birthday.
I know, but you always like those.
Wait.
So I decided to bring it back.
It's for Jesus, right? Because his birthday's coming up.
Yeah, I'm bringing sexy back right there.
Bringing sexy back.
But.
I don't know the rest of the words or how to...
But it's good to be back.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this so much. Very, very much.
Yeah, very much.
It's definitely been probably boring with me on the show by myself.
Actually, I was watching
staring at the beard.
I was watching the episodes, and they were pretty boss. You guys make comments about those, because I was actually making comments about those, and I don't think you even read them. But anyway,
probably not.
They were good. They were really good.
I couldn't keep up with them all. There was so much there.
Yes, and then Jim showed up. Oh, no, it was Sean. Mayor Sean was for the first one.
Yeah. Mayor Sean, he came out. We had a great show, and I think the second one I was...
So you're solo, and then the third one you were solo, right? Was it 3?
It's only 2.
It's only 2.
Yeah.
Whew, it feels like I've been gone for a while.
It's been off and on, but yep. Oh no, Joel's singing. Yeah, that's not good. Anyways, so tonight we are going to talk about how to basically bring up issues when you want to go to city council, to a county board, hell, even the state government. We're going to talk about some common sense with that.
Why the how-tos?
Why the how-tos? Because some people just have no idea how to actually properly approach the situation and have some decorum and how to get that across, like what their point is. Because I'm going to put it plain out, shouting doesn't get the job done.
There's a lot of that going on in California.
It causes disruption. Now, granted,
at city council, there's a lot of shouting going on.
Sometimes you are frustrated and you get to that point. I completely understand. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people just flat out aren't listening to what you're saying. They do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. The best thing you can do there is get them recalled or vote when it's time to vote. Vote people in that are going to listen to you. Be specific in your voting.
So you're talking about shouting amongst the council members or shouting?
Well, not even. I'm talking about the people coming in. So. For a couple things to start off real quick off the bat. So, there is that in a local small town meeting, a city council meeting. Mm-hmm. There's always a lot of emotions. I get that. Mm-hmm. People are very passionate, especially when they find out something that they didn't know about or something that they're passionate about and they want to get their word across. It's important, especially even more so when they feel like their government's not listening
or they can't trust, or for some reason there's a lack of whatever.
But and so I completely understand all that. And if your representatives aren't listening to you and you really don't have that trust in there, and there's a lot of problems and things, then that's something to definitely need to fix, and it starts with getting the right people voted in, or making those issues public. But I'm going to get to that in a minute,
okay? Because
that is part of the tactic I want to talk about. Okay. But the most important thing before anything else, okay, you do, whether you go into little meetings or big meetings, doesn't matter. The most important thing
just
to do,
any meeting.
And anything, even if you're not going to a meeting, if you're just in general, but this is something we always tell everybody. do your research. Know what the hell you are talking about, because if you don't, all you're going to do is either cause chaos, cause problems, or look like a dumbass. Okay? And sometimes you could be all three at the same time.
Stop majoring in the minors. Come on now.
Exactly. So, if you don't know what you're talking about,
right,
it's going to cause problems. Now, everybody has the right and has the responsibility, too. It's a responsibility as a citizen to redress your government and to let your representatives know what's on your mind, what you're thinking, and what you're looking for. That's really important. Whether you do it on or off of a public meeting, whether you catch them on the side, whether you write them emails, whether you give them phone calls, whether you write them a letter, or you come up and address them on the mic.
Well, if you've ever taken public speaking, in order to maintain an audience, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to put it out within the 3 minutes that you have available to you. In most council meetings, that's all you get is 3 minutes. So if you're going to give like 2 minutes and 59 seconds of doo-doo fluff, and then you're going to come at the last minute, then you're going to complain they didn't hear you. You didn't do your research.
Here's the problem. When people don't wait for their 3 minutes and they just want to shout from the back row the entire time.
Which is
instead of following a simple process where the reason why processes, and especially in small towns, is because people get really passionate about it. And so there's an order to try to get so that people have a chance to speak uninterrupted and get the information across.
Can I throw in a little caveat and a question for you? Do you think in smaller towns, if you're on a council, you wear many hats amongst that town, so people are very familiar with you, not just as a council member, but this person, so they feel familiar, and therefore sometimes that need for etiquette kind of just goes by the wayside?
It can, but there's still a need in order to get things done and progress forward. There has to be a sense of decorum and process.
Absolutely.
And the reason why that's so important is because if everybody's shouting, then there's nothing happening.
Nobody's
There's just a bunch
listening.
of shouting. Yeah. When everybody's shouting, no one's listening. Exactly. If you're talking, you're not listening.
Yes.
So, I did not get all that because it was too much. So you made to send it to me, Brandy. But the important thing is, however, if you come educated in the information that you want to talk about. Okay. For example,
yes,
if you're coming to talk about a project or how money's being spent, understand how a budget in the city works. Okay, that's one thing first.
Yes.
Okay, what the legal requirements are that you cannot override.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because it comes from a state statute, it comes from a constitution, it comes from finance law, federal and state and county, and there's a whole bunch of
open records.
There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Plus, everything's got to be open record about it and stuff, and the budgets are anyone can view it. But understanding how that works is the basics of government finance. You cannot use money that is identified and set for something somewhere else. You can't go, the city has $5 million in its coffers. It can spend it on this and put all this in just fine, no problem. No, that $5 million has a bucket for street spending, for utilities, for paying employees, for X, Y, Z.
Earmarked.
And these buckets are there because there have to be, because of there's an accountability piece to it saying, well, where's the money being spent?
Yes.
How do you plan on spending my money as a citizen? I want to know, how do you plan on spending my money? And if I say, we have a big account here, we're just going to spend on what we need and go on a whim, you're going to go like hell you are. You know? But if you say, hey, we have this much money earmarked for this much money earmarked for this, and so on, then you're going, okay, then they have a budget. That's what they should do. Everything's set out in certain ways.
Can I be honest with you why you're saying this?
Yeah.
When I pastored a church, we had our church budget meeting that was normally set in November for the following year. And that's where I received the least amount of congregants when we set up our budget meeting because it was it was boring for some. But when it came to a project and they weren't aware of the budget, some congregants were very upset when we had to tell them, you should have probably come to our budget meeting because you would have had a voice there.
Exactly. If you're not going to participate, then you're the product of your own situation. Or you're in the situation of your, anyways.
I got you. We got them, right? We got them.
Yeah, exactly. But with those buckets, because of that clarity, and when it comes down to government budgets, and because that money's divvied out from like property taxes and things, or SDCs that are paid for like construction and new homes and permits and things, all of that has specific requirements of where it has to go towards,
But
what it can and can't go to.
What's different about a church, though, than a city budget is, do we get a say, though, where that goes?
Yeah, you guys get more of a say as a board because if
Not as a board, but as a person in the city.
as a congregation?
Or
yeah.
as a...
Well, wait. Do you get a say
As a neighbor, as a person?
Oh, you're saying for the government.
Yeah. Do I have a
yes and no?
in that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So you can't come on and say, well, you have $5 million and I want $4 million to go towards parks. You can't do that. No, because when taxes come back out, it's divvied up and things have to go into things like road maintenance and this and that. And there's certain requirements of what that money has to funnel down into.
Got you.
And then there's districts and things. Districts are separate from the city. Like the fire district, we have no control over the fire district as a city. Or the school district, there's no control over the school district. And the different districts, I think it's like a cemetery district and things.
Yeah.
Those different districts, part of that money from that comes out of the taxes, go to them, and then they have their own spending way of how they can do things.
Got you.
But
what they get is what they get.
What they get is what they get. But what I'm saying is the city doesn't have control over that. They're separate. They're two different entities, two different bigger buckets.
Okay.
So, but in the city, now there is some things like, for example, if money's earmarked to go to parks and things like that. Okay, let's say we put $1 million towards park, which it's not the way it is, so don't take these numbers exactly. I'm just giving
People
random examples.
don't get any ideas.
Yeah, I'm just giving random examples. You
a
can see the
splash
budget.
pad. Hey, we can get a golden splash pad.
You can see the budgets and everything else on there, so don't take these numbers.
Yeah.
There's
Malala.
nothing solid behind it.
Yeah, or Malala, or whoever you're watching from.
Let's just say there's $1 million, it's a bigger city, and said $1 million is going to go towards parks.
Right.
Now, the parks section has some things like maybe there's some like maintenance that got to go into that and that type of thing. So that'll get budgeted towards maintenance. But there might be like, $800,000 of that's for projects or whatever. I don't know. And so they're like, oh, people can have a say in like, okay, well, we want these projects to be X, Y, and Z, and they can petition the city council. It's like, hey, we want X, Y, and Z in our parks, and the city council can go, yeah, we can do that, or no, because we're already obligated because of X, Y contract. But in maybe 2 years from now, we can put money in there and do that or whatever. But there's also obligations that are preset as well.
Does a councilor actually take it upon themselves to actually go out and kind of get a felt sense of what the city needs?
Some do, some don't.
And so they bring that back. So sometimes it goes your way.
Yeah, a counselor can go out. They can talk to people and things like that. Some do, some don't. Some people come to that counselor. Everything's different. So,
so you're
I'm not saying one way is right or the other. I'd recommend any counselor go out, or representative, not counselor, just any representative, go out and talk to the people that they represent. Show them that you're there, that you care, and that there's you want to get that information in, so you can have process, so you can make a best decision for the people you represent. But, that's a different story altogether. We're talking about...
But does it connect to budgets at all? Like how money's spent? Can you as a counselor go and say, hey, I've heard from people on the street that they really want this, so can we allocate money towards it?
You can. That does help. It does help.
Okay.
It does help.
Okay.
So, now... No worries. A budget is set in the beginning of the year for the year.
Yes.
I see where you're going with that, what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
But a budget is set at the beginning of the year for the year, and the thing is, once that budget is set, it isn't like we just get in a room and scribble some stuff out and say, yay. No, it's prepped by the city, presented to a committee larger than the actual council.
Wow.
It's extra people on that committee. They all review it, they look at it, and then it's approved by the budget committee. Okay, so it's the council and these other people approved by the budget committee. Then it's got to go into the council, and the council's got the final approval of that budget. So there can be change. The council can make changes and things like that as they see fit at the end. They're the final say. They can change what they have. So the budget committee is more like, hey, we look at this as what our final recommendation is. In most cases, they're just going to take that there. If there's something weird about it or whatever, they can go through and talk about it, kick it back, whatever.
Gotcha.
But in most cases, that's not usually the case. Mm-hmm. That all happens during the budget committee meeting.
So when it gets to you, quote unquote, your desk.
Usually when it gets to the actual official council meeting, it's like I said, the council's on the budget committee. So a lot of that's already usually been hashed out. Okay. So when it gets there, usually it's just we're approving, we're moving
Got
forward.
you. Mm-hmm.
But up until that happens, it's good for people to bring stuff forward and concerns and things, and they can see what they can fit into budgets and stuff, write letters to the city, come to public meetings, let people know, be involved. But once that budget's set, there's you got to wait until if you need to change major things, it's hard to change stuff in midway. In some cases, you can't because again, money and funnels.
Right.
So that's an important thing about budget understanding is, but if, for example, a $2 million street project, okay, those funds may be earmarked towards very specific guidelines, maybe under special projects and things, or special requirements from the state or something on how those funds are used, because they may be coming from a special fund. Maybe the state has a part in giving some of that money, or there's special tax incentives, or there's going to be a million things about that involves that, right? So you can't just take that money and go, oh, well, we need stop signs in the city. We need a traffic light. We need something.
$20.
Because that particular money may not be able to legally be able to use that way because of stipulations from the county, state, and whatever else, you know?
And so many moving parts.
So because of all that, that's why it's so important. If you're going to come to a budget committee or you're going to come to a public meeting and you're going to present a concern you have, it is so critical to understand that information, because if you come in and you're saying, well, you guys got $5 million and you're going to put it all towards the ducks or something like that or whatever, well, you guys should be putting it towards, building a new school. Understand that money, that $5 million for the ducks, may have been granted from a federal contract or something weird that says you have to use it in that particular type of scenario and you can't use it any other place. Nonprofits are set by the same thing, by the federal law.
Yes, sir.
And 501c3 gets money donated to them for, like, let's just say,
and they have to use it for where it's designated.
Exactly. Now, if it's designated to general fund, they can use it.
General fund is general fund.
But if it says you have a special event coming up, and here's
just work the same way.
$1,000 for that, you can't use that money for anything else but that legally.
No.
And you have to be able to prove you did that too.
In churches, so I know some people that go to church. In churches,
some people that go to church.
I know some people that go to church, but in churches, if money is earmarked for, let's just say, the children's department, if we got around the board table and we discussed that, and we were like, well, it could be better served towards maybe the building fund, not general fund, but the building fund, maintenance or whatever, we would have to go back and ask that person,
donated that money,
to not strong arm them, not to coax them, not to. If you mind, do you mind, because it can be used better elsewhere? And they get the power to say no.
Yeah, the right to say no. Yeah, and then guess what? It's still there. And so, but that's the biggest thing. And the government isn't. So we don't have the ability to go back and necessarily ask that question.
Right.
But
don't expect the city to do that.
It's still the same idea as if earmarked towards something or given towards something.
Yeah.
You got to use it that way.
Right.
So,
speaking of that, before you get there, don't we have bills to pay for too?
Bills to pay for too?
Meaning commercial.
Oh yes, we do have a commercial. I'm sure. Isn't it that time of the year?
Is that time of the year? It's not that time of the month, Joel. It's that time of the year.
So Whitney Signs, great sponsor of ours. Been here since the very beginning. They do great stuff. Like they printed this cool banner for us. And we had other stuff.
Where's the other?
I don't know.
They didn't make it.
When the mayor was running, they had this.
Yes, but now he's our.
Yes, he's the mayor again
for the next 20 years. Okay.
Hopefully.
Add a zero to that too.
200 years.
200 years. Sean, Mayor Sean, if you can stomach it that long.
Anyways, so they are a great company. Go and take a look at this. Let's see if it's working. Is it working? It's not working. They're great company.
Guys is awesome.
Yeah.
Honk honk.
Yes, it's a great commercial, but we've had a lot of problems in there, and I've literally had no time to go and fix it all.
No problem.
I got to rebuild the entire commercial system.
Well, you know what? I see Whitney signs all over Estacada. I see them painting Estacada with their signs. Great place to go get your signs made. Good people. You know that.
I think I saw something online that they actually made, like, even the Ann Farms new sign.
I saw the Ann Farm new sign.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so
lots of great
all over.
stuff. Go check them out. WhitneySigns.com, I believe. If not, just Google them. You'll find the number up there. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't have anything to show you here.
Okay, one more time. Ready? Honk, honk.
Oh.
Okay, never mind.
I know what he's going for.
Dang it. Back to your budget.
Anyways, so the budget was just an example of trying to understand and be educated before you go into a meeting. So that way, when you come into the meeting, that you can actually have a conversation that can be productive. For example...
But if you have a vested interest in speaking into that, where do you find this information?
You can find it, like, for example, let's just say...
What if it needs to be dissected to you? You just don't come out... No, well, I'm bad.
Exactly. And, that's the thing, is why it's important to be educated, but also be attending these meetings, because in a lot of cases, these meetings, a lot of the stuff is talked about and is broken down to understand it better. And it's like, for example, when they talk about a subdivision coming in, they go through and they read everything about a subdivision top to bottom, even though everybody in that council may have already read the packet or know about it and have all those things ready, but they go through and they still read it out because there's a requirement so that people that are watching understand that it's required by law to read that through so that it's public information.
So to bring it home a little bit more than like I know you want to, why is it important to know it ahead of time so you don't look like you don't know what you're doing?
Well, exactly, because when you come in and you are shouting about stuff and you're shouting like that, you know, the government's not listening to the people, or that why don't you use the money better for other places, etc. But you don't understand that money can't be used other places. It's got to be used in scenarios. Not exactly the one that was presented at some meetings, and I'm not going to get into too much specifics because that's not what we're about. But
it happens all over council meetings.
It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. But and this is not just for city council. You can talk about the school board, fire board, anything like that. It's all important. But if you want the information, like for this example of the city, you can go request it from the city. There's a public record for budgets. Mm-hmm. They can provide that to you. They can talk. They can
just an ROI.
Yeah. You can
not ROI.
It's a FOIA request. Freedom of information. Everyone calls it different.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I'd like to request these public records, and then they'll give you a form, and you run through the process, you get them to you, and you can read through it. And if you're not really sure about it, you can talk to friends, you can talk to your representatives, you can ask the city, what does this mean? And try to get them to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. So, educate yourself. Once you know the information, okay, then you can go, okay, you can make yourself an educated opinion of what's there, and then come in with an argument that says, hey, you're wanting to do X, Y, and Z on this project. We don't because of X, Y, and Z. This isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. Here's an alternative idea, or hey, please just don't do this stuff. I know you can't spend that money in other places, but maybe hold on to it, or here's another way to spend it, or something. There's different ways to go about it. And when you're educated and you understand that maybe there's $2 million earmarked for something, that you can't use it in another way, but there might be a way you can come up with and how they can use it that still makes your goal achieved, but yet still fits that parameters, and that council is stuck in themselves too. They don't have the choice to override that. They're stuck in that in many cases.
Okay, I'm an accessibility person, and a lot of people might be discouraged to do what you're asking because in some cases the city is not as accessible. I know during the pandemic, people in the city were very hard to, and I say specifically here, but not just limited to here. Yeah, not just limited, but beyond, they were not accessible. Where do you go?
There can be a lot of different things. There's websites like the cityofestacada.org has a lot of stuff on there. I'm not a big fan of our website, but there's websites, and if you can call into them, you can actually get a hold of somebody. You can usually find contact lists on there. And if you're having trouble reaching your city, you've made good efforts to call them, you've made requests to try to get information, go to the next level up. Go if you can't reach somebody at your local municipality, try going to your county and see if you can get them to help connect you with your city and get the information. They may not have it, but they may be able to make phone calls or whatever and get you connected with somebody so you can make your request. Go up a level, Or if you can, contact one of your local representatives.
Gotcha.
So that's another way too. There's a comment earlier. I wanted to read it. It was really large, but I don't know if it ever got sent to me. I wanted to see what it was.
Okay.
Never got sent.
So as we're looking, you guys, you are commenting. We know that.
I do see it. Sapat says, I apologize to Sean and you for not keeping my mouth shut, but I didn't want to listen to her. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to get specifics on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand Sapat.
And just so you know, you guys, we're sometimes we talk about things that seem like it's right after an event, and sometimes it is. But it's not. It's global.
Well, in this case, I felt after the specific event, this was important to understand.
Right.
And so now with that particular case, it's okay sometimes to have a quick thing where you're like, oh, you're so emotionally moved by something that you have a quick blurt out. That's not a big deal. But when it's consistent and there's a plead from the council, say, hey, let us get through this. Your question's gonna be answered. The thing is, when you keep going at it, all you're doing is causing disruption. Nothing gets happening, and then you wonder why there's problems in the city getting things done. when you're destroying the meeting that they're trying to get things done in.
And I love that we live in a bubble and a capsule here, but this is happening. If you want to find out how a city council should not, a meeting should not go, look at California's. Southern California, they have people not only talking but ready to go to blows. I mean, this is when you have cops at the door waiting.
Exactly. And it shouldn't get to that point, because if you actually want to make progress, you got to understand that in order to, if you want civility, you want a civilization, you want things to make sense, you got to have a process to follow. Otherwise, it's chaos. If chaos is what you want, stay out of the city meeting. But if you want an actual process to get to an organized civilization, you got to be able to follow the process. And the process is there to keep things organized. That's another large comment. I need those sent to me, producer, so I can read those, because I'm only getting half of it.
Got you. Okay.
So the but yeah. So now that's the basic understanding. Having good basic knowledge, that we say. We always tell people, learn the information, be educated. Second one is have a plan to come in and present those. And the biggest and most important thing is have some decorum. Basically, have the ability to wait your turn, produce the information you have, share it with others so they can say it over and over again if you need to. But most importantly, don't walk on someone else's time, because you're not doing anything except for you're hurting that other person, and you're hurting the whole city as they're trying to get through the process. You don't know if those representatives that you're trying to address are on your side or not, because if you're stopping them from even speaking or getting to the point where they're allowed to discuss it, you don't know. They could be ready to argue your same point, but if you're going to be they're human. You could argue and be disruptive enough to work your way right out of the point of what they're trying to make, where they don't get a chance to make it and it causes damage, or B, you lose them as a supporter to your cause. Because
are you meaning talking over them, not giving them a chance to rebuttal?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And I get that there's very passionate. This is your city. This is how your taxes are being spent. And some of these projects are really big deal. But remember also too, some of those representatives might be living in the exact same situation, have the exact same thoughts you do. So
that's a good point.
You got to give them a chance to get to the point to do it. But like, for example, some meetings, to get to a process, for example, like if an ordinance is going to pass, there's discussions, and then there's voting, and then it's got to come back again to be voted on again. And usually there's a second discussion and a voting, and there's usually work before that. So it's not just, we want to make a change to an ordinance, and then it's done. There's work to get it set how it needs supposed to be. Then there's discussion and voting, and then it gets passed, and then it's got to come back and pass again, and then 30 days later it comes into effect. There's a process for it because it allows for people to rebuttal, for second decisions, for issues to come up and things like that. The same thing happens with big projects. Massive projects takes years to get through because there's a lot of steps in the process, whether fundraising, deciding, double checking things, getting input from the city, getting from the citizens, things like that. So
I love that you're kind of going through this, because everybody thinks their crisis in the immediate should be addressed now and fixed now, but there's a bunch of spokes in the wheel that need to be addressed.
And the big point I want to make here is that it's good. Be passionate about it and bring that passion to council. But don't come one meeting, but do a bunch of shouting and then not show up again. Come be involved and partake, especially when there's times for the citizen input to ask you for that. Be there, understand when that is, know what's going on, and so when it comes to time to put that input, you have a good piece of information to put in there, and you understand what's the history and what can come out of your opinion when you put it in there, and you're speaking out there of an educated position. That really helps so much more to help us understand as representatives, to help any representative understand, is to have people that are involved and know the situation around it and have good feedback on it rather than a passionate 5-minute feedback.
It's easier in smaller communities, and I'll say this too. When you're speaking to your representatives, it's important that you build relationship. I'm not talking about just outside the office, but if you come to council meetings, they see your face, you have enough coins in your bank to speak to something.
Exactly.
But if you show up one time, give your rant, you're not taken seriously because you're here today and gone tomorrow. It's like small towns. Hey, you know what? We move in, but we move out. Oh, well, you don't get to hear much.
Exactly. And as a representative, I want to hear as much as I can from the people that I represent. Mm-hmm. I want that feedback.
Yeah.
Even if it is a 5-minute conversation, because the more I get back is better.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, I want those citizens involved so they're educated and they're not surprised when things come up. And sometimes people can't make it to meetings. I get that. It's hard. They work or whatever else is happening. People have busy lives. But whether that means that they are writing in, they are watching the recordings of it, the public records, they're educating themselves.
I want to speak to recordings in a little bit.
Yeah, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. They have that there, so when they do have the conversation with the representatives, they're like, oh yeah, I saw this and this, but I have questions about this, or I think this. It really connects in where others going, oh, well, I saw that project out there, and I think this is horrible, and you should be X, Y, Z. And as a representative, you're going, well, none of that even fits there. It's not part of that, or that doesn't make sense because that's not there. And then you're trying to explain it to them, or you're trying to take in and pick the pieces that make sense because what it fits in with that puzzle. It's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, I'm giving a lot of information for people to take in. In the end, everybody has the right to free speech. Everybody has the right to redress their government and their representatives, and I encourage them to do it. And if you can't follow some of the guidelines, still address your government. Still address it. I'm not saying not to do that.
Yes.
I'm saying get out there and talk to your people, but I'm just trying to give you some tools to help make it more impactful and make it flow better. But I'm never, and under any circumstances, am I ever going to say to someone not to show up and do it. I really mean talk to your government.
And if the answer is let's table that doesn't mean a no. It's not a hard no, is it?
No, it means let's table it. So, and always remember, and this is what I've learned in the last 2 years.
What have you learned, oh wise one? Look at the beard.
Yes, I've learned this in the last couple of years.
You have more gray hair being in office than ever. Sorry, just like
a lot of great mentors out there that I've gotten, and the biggest thing is
from that. Yeah,
there's always 10 other layers to every decision and action that you see. So you see from the outside, you see X and Y happening, but there's usually 10
the iceberg.
There's 10 pieces underneath that of how everything's playing together, and the decisions that are happening before, and what that representative may be trying to get to on a discussion. But then it takes processes to get there because a representative can be 1 out of 7.
But I see we live in a Facebook community, right? Mm-hmm. So I see all this general distrust going around about our leaders. So that people already go into a meeting thinking there's something nefarious going on under the surface.
That's the biggest thing too. I've been at meetings where people have said, "Well, you don't listen to the people. We don't trust it. Well, yeah. If you don't understand what's going on, that gives you a sense of distrust. Lack of education breeds distrust, but that's not all on them. It is true. It is on the government. There has been a lot of stuff done that has been very shaded or hidden behind walls that needs transparency done to it so that the people can see that. There needs to be checks and balances, there needs to be transparency, there needs to be accountability for when those things aren't going the way they should be. And so when there's an opportunity to get that transparency and accountability, I think that the government should always take the opportunity to be transparent and accountable. So, one comment real quick, and then you had something you said you wanted to get to. I don't want to...
No, you're fine.
Dislodge that. What's the best way to approach you with you being on the council that will get the thoughts, feelings, worries, etc. of a community member heard by you? Would you be willing to be stopped out and about, or do you prefer in meetings? I'm just curious.
Love that
if
question.
If you see me on the street, unless I'm running to the bathroom, feel free to stop me and talk to me, okay? I've had that happen when I was trying to rush to the bathroom and I ran. Someone talked to me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I just gotta go. But
I can say so many things there, and you want him to go to the bathroom too. Believe me.
No, meetings. There's I have emails. I have a cell phone. I have Facebook. Uh-huh. Now I try to avoid discussing city-based stuff on my personal email or my personal Facebook, because that gets into public records laws and things like that. I avoid that. So if you reach out to me about something like that, I'm going to try to get you to call me or something like that, or email my city email.
But also remember this too: you can't address everything in transit.
Exactly.
If you have to go pick up your daughter from school and you get 80 stops along the way, do you have a way that you can say, "Hey, I hear you. Email me." Do you have a card? Do you have something you can hand out?
I've requested them. I've been requesting for a while. They haven't shown up yet. I'm waiting for them still.
2 years in. Well, you know what? Keep asking. You don't know what goes on under the surface.
I have handed out a show card with my cell phone on it. And I said, it's not the show. It just has my cell phone number on there. You can reach me.
Yeah.
But
they think they're calling Backwoods Brothers. No, we're not.
Yeah, I'm not. This is not affiliated with it. I'm just my phone number.
Just your phone number.
Yes, I do whatever I can. I mean, I've gone and knocked on doors.
Yes, you have.
I've had town hall meetings.
Yes, you have.
I did anything I could to try to get the people's voice out there on the information, especially when I know there's a very strong passion for that. I want to get the information, and I know other representatives do the same thing in their own way. So
you sitting, I'm going to lead into this. You sitting at the table, or maybe people like you sitting at the table, hearing a community with passion. What goes through your mind to process not to take it personally?
I don't know. I just don't take it personally. I don't know how.
Yeah, I forgot I'm talking to Joel. Okay, any other human being, how do they know?
It's a choice.
It
honestly.
does. It just rolls off. And I admire you about that, by the way.
Oh, honestly,
that things just roll off. Things just roll off. It's a choice.
You have to choose. It's a choice. It's a choice. You just say, "Am I going to let this affect me or not?" And it's if it comes on me, and short of them like directly insulting my wife or something.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about me. I don't care. I'm around.
Well, that's what you have to know when you get into the public arena, is that you're going to get it from all sides.
Yeah, and I don't really care. But the point where I care a little more is when it starts to affect my family, because they're doing their thing and I'm me. I mean, I'm representing the people. But here's something everybody knows. They should know, we're volunteers. We don't get paid. We don't get any benefits. It costs us money to actually do this, and our time, a lot of effort. And there's times when you have to drag ourselves down there when we're not feeling well, or be on a meeting or something like that, or read a 11 or 1,200 page packet in a few days while we're trying to work and take care of other things. It takes time, and we're all volunteers. We're doing the best we can. So that's another reason why you show up to Decorum, because we're taking the time to do it for the people of West Decatur when there's no benefit to us except for just trying to help.
You mentioned your family, by the way, and I think this is important because, I don't have the council experience, but I have the pastor, again, experience, where people think if you're hired as the pastor, your family comes along and they're hired too. So if there's a problem with you, they go talk to your wife or they go talk to your family member. And so it kind of just, people tend to glump everybody together. Yeah. And so it does get a little weighty on families if you are out in the public. What's the best
in my case, it happens to be that my wife is actually an appointed.
She's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, she's the exception to that. In most cases,
but she's still a person. She's still a person with feelings.
Exactly. And she's different than I am when it comes down to what we can do and things like that. Yeah. But the most important thing is, remember, we're volunteers. We want to help. We want to take information. We want to try to represent the best we can.
I don't know how much time we have, but I was going to tell you, I wasn't even going to go to commercial. But remember, commercials like Hitch and Post Pizza, awesome place. Yep. Valerie in Estacada, Hitch and Post Pizza, go get your pizza.
I had some last night.
You did?
Yeah, it was great.
You didn't invite me? I'm a fender. I'm a fender.
Joel doesn't share food.
The other thing is we kind of teach...
Can you send that one in, producer?
Representatives in a meeting sometimes teach the general public how to treat them by how they treat each other. And so, in each meeting, there's a beginning and there's a closing, right?
Yep.
In each meeting, in each appointee is appointed for a specific time. They come on to council or they come on to whatever board or representative or whatever, and then they leave.
Yep.
I've always been taught to come well, but it's even better to leave well.
Yeah.
And so...
It doesn't always happen with some people.
It doesn't always happen with leadership.
So some leaders make a complete jackass of themselves.
And so when leadership on tape, mind you, on video, decide that they want to throw mud all over the council and project into the future of that council and into the future of our city because of that council or their dislike for that council is irresponsible.
Unfortunately, it happens on lots of councils all over the place. case, but some leaders don't have the decorum, or I don't call them leaders. Some representatives don't have the decorum.
I call them leaders because they have followers.
Yeah, I'm not.
I call them leaders.
I won't. No, I won't call the ones that do that leaders. I'm going to call them representatives. They may represent them, but they're definitely leading them, and you are good. So some representatives don't have decorum or respect enough for themselves or the position that they make, like, say, they make themselves complete asses, and when they produce nothing for that period of time that they're there. They take up a seat where something could productive be done. They cause lots of disruptions and issues over the course of their period, and
a lot of their decisions are personally based. They're based on personal accounts. So, anyways, without
some
saying,
people are just jackasses.
Yeah, so without saying too much, I'm just saying that sometimes we look on the outside and we see council members that are fractured on the inside, and I thank God for beginning appointments and ending appointments for that very reason. Because it's time for some people.
You can get them out in the beginning, in the middle too.
Yeah.
If you have people on there.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Sorry, another question. What do you have to say for the younger generations who are curious and want to learn? It's their future also. How do you get them involved? Also, I have teens, and their futures of being a voter are coming up quickly. What's your advice or thoughts on helping them along the way?" Take a civics class.
Yep.
I'm not talking about a high school civics class.
Yes.
I'm talking about a real civics class. They used
to teach that.
Learn the Constitution.
Yeah.
Read the Constitution. Not just let them read it.
Yep. Learn your branches of government.
Learn branches of government. Basically, like I said, a civics class. Learn a real civics class and get the information. There are people out there outside of school that would love to sit there and just teach you everything about it, because they're passionate about it. It matters to them. They'll teach you about all the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the amendments and how it works and how a state constitution versus a federal constitution, and how the state government works versus the federal government works, and how the powers be, and they kind of lay out there in the 3 branches in each state and everything else. They'll teach you all about that, how it breaks down on the state side from the local municipality up to the state government. They'll teach you everything you want to know. Education. Be educated. That's the first thing I'd say. Is that. Second thing is respect. Respect the position, okay? Because the position is, they may want to be themselves. They may want to be there themselves one day, okay? Or they may be having someone. They may be there and then they maybe leave, and someone may be representing them in the process. Respect it. Respect the position. Okay? That's the second thing and there are things for younger.
And to be respectable.
Respectable. That's the thing. Thank you. Be respectable means that present yourself in a way that's professional, that is calm, that is educated. Too? Yeah.
When you're thinking about joining a specific place in leadership in your city, get involved already as a young person in different areas around the city where people know your name.
I was about to get to that.
Well, there you go.
No, you're spot on though.
No, yeah.
You are spot on. And not just getting involved in things where people know your name, but get involved in things like, for example, a lot of high schools have debate classes. Mm-hmm. A lot of or there's clubs out there. Churches have different things in leadership where they can teach you. They can get involved in youth leadership.
Passionate about this.
Exactly. There's those type of things. There's nonprofits. They can come in and start to learn on how to serve. Because when you're a representative, you're not there to be served. You're not there for your own personal need.
If you are
there to serve. Yeah. So you got to have the understanding and the heart and the mentality of serving and service, not being served.
There's a word I always hear from you, and you constantly bring it up. Even up at this last meeting, you brought it up: transparency and truth, and those types of things.
Be ready to be transparent, being accountable. Yeah. So.
So
bolster your integrity.
Yeah, know your values.
Exactly, that's a good one too. Bolster your integrity, because if you don't have good integrity, you should never sit in a position of office. Wow. There's too many of those jackasses out there. So
good stuff.
Preach it, bro. I hope there's some good things coming up. But the last thing is, when it comes to actually voting, know not just what's on the level of voting. teach your children how to research. If you don't know how to research yourself, start researching the issues. Teach your children how to research and to educate themselves on the facts, not what's in a packet in front of you, but what that cascading effect of a decision can mean. For example,
you bring that? Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, for example, 111. What people don't really understand is what that really means, because there's other stuff that's further down the line that once some research you find and you realize this is a foundation to get this and this and this in, which is universal health care. 111 is just one example. There's 100 other things like that. So educating
13
yourself.
and 14.
Educating yourself on what those mean and what the compounding pieces are, those helps you to make a decision. If it's what you want, and whether it's something I agree with or not, if it's what you did in research and it's what you want and it's opposite of me, that's fine. I support that.
But not only do your research, critically think, because there's a lot of research. When I was growing up and when you were growing up, we didn't have the internet.
Critical thinking.
So we have a lot of information. Yeah,
you're spot on. I couldn't have brought up a better description myself. Critical thinking.
Not critically, but critical.
Critical thinking.
Yes.
Critical thinking means that you come to your conclusions and your thought processes yourself by taking the information and developing it and coming into your own way about it.
Yeah.
Not taking, hey, I heard this on TV and that's what I believe now.
Right.
That is literally turning your decision making over to that person. You're surrendering it to the person that's telling you the information that you're now believing and thinking. Be a critical thinker. Make your own decisions, because you hold the power then to your thoughts and actions, not somebody else having control over you, because that's exactly what that is.
I love that. So that goes back to teaching kids how to do that, not what to think, but how to.
Exactly. Schools too much these days teach people what to think and not how to think.
How to think.
My recommendation is teach your kids how to think, not what to think.
That's good.
So
it's really good.
We're at the end of our time, man.
Already?
Yeah, it's 7:45. I could go on to this for a lot longer.
This was fun. Hope you guys give us feedback, okay? On this
if you like to hear things like this, let us know. We'd love to be able to talk more about it. How to think for themselves. Also, that's kind of us saying think for themselves. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. It's been great to have my brother Tony back down here.
Good to be back.
It's good, fun show. It's been great information. Do you have any last words of wisdom?
I've expounded all my wisdom, but you know what? It's good to be back. Most of all, remember that if you're thinking about going into this, John Maxwell said this: you are a leader if you have followers. That doesn't mean you have to be a good leader. That means if you have followers. And so remember that people have eyes on you. So I go right back to what you said: transparency. Do your homework. If you come to a council meeting or a meeting and you're wanting to speak, write out what you're going to say. That actually sometimes takes all the emotion out of it, so that the message can be heard and not the emotion.
Exactly. And I guess my parting words of wisdom will be don't wipe before you poop.
Oh, good.
And last one is...
Wait, you said don't poop before you wipe?
Don't wipe before you poop. Because this don't make no sense. So, I'll just leave you at that one. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you next time.